One of the things that you will want to do is make sure that each person that is using QuickBooks has their own login. You'll give each person their own username and their own password. Only the administrator can add, edit, or delete users. You can have up to 5 users in your QuickBooks file. If you need additional ones, you can think about upgrading your subscription or purchasing those additional ones that you might need. The reason you want to have these additional users set up is because if you want to track down errors, then you'll want to know who was logged in at the time that that particular transaction was changed. You can run an audit trail to see a report on which user was logged in, what the transaction used to look like, and what it looks like now. You also will be able to limit the user's access to certain areas of QuickBooks. Let's go ahead and flip over and I will show you how to manage the users. Keep in mind that the administrator has to be logged in order to work with the users. I'm going to go up to my gear icon in the top right hand side of the screen, and in the first column you'll see an option that says Manage Users. The first thing I want to point out is that normally if you're using one of the basic subscriptions, then you only have 5 what they call billable users in your plan, and like I mentioned earlier, you do have to upgrade if you want to have additional users. The admin is considered one of the 5 users, and you can see here is the admin name. If you wanted to edit the admin information, you can choose the edit over on the right and then come over here to edit user settings. Typically, when you first set up QuickBooks, you're going to see the email address that you signed up with right here under the first name field, and there won't be anything where it says last name. You could come up here and change those like I did. I'm going to go ahead and hit save at the bottom. If you want to add a user, just come over to the right here and click on Add User. Your user that you're setting up can have what they call standard rights, which means that you can choose to give them full rights, but you can also choose to limit their access to certain areas, or you can give them company admin rights, which means they have access to everything. These options up here count towards your 5 user limit we discussed. These here don't, because you might have someone you want to be able to log in just to run reports or maybe just to do time tracking. I'm going to go ahead and choose standard user at the top and click next in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. The first thing it asks me is how much access do I want to give this user? Now if you say all, notice it will include payroll and it will check that, and you can see all the different things they have access to over here. If I go ahead and uncheck that, you'll notice that the things they don't have access to do are down at the bottom. They can't add or edit employees in this case or delete payroll transactions. It could be that I say none, I don't want them to have rights to any of these accounting features, but they can still manage other things in QuickBooks, like submitting their own timesheets, things like that. I can also give them limited access, meaning if I want them to be able to do things with customers, you can see the choices here. Or if I want them to do things with vendors or both, you can see I can check both, and you'll see all the options here as well. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And now it asks me, do you want this user to add, edit, and remove users? We're going to say no, and I wouldn't change that because you want the administrator to have rights to everyone. If you start giving everyone full rights to change users and that sort of thing, then what's the point in even setting those up? Notice that you can also give this person permission to edit the company info, or if you want them to manage the subscriptions, you have the ability to do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and click Next at the bottom. Then it says, we'll invite them to create a QuickBooks account and password for each to access the company file. What you're basically going to do here is the new user you'd like to set up, you're going to put in their first and last name here, put in their email, and they will actually get an email saying that the administrator would like them to become a user. They would accept, and then they can set up the username and password. Make sure that the administrator knows that information. You wouldn't want to have an employee that has their own username and login information and the administrator doesn't know what it is and can't have access to what they do. That's going to be very important for you. I'm going to go ahead and just X out of this because at this point what would happen is once they accept it, then you would see their name down here as a user. And that's really how the users will work. I do want to show you the audit trail report, but we'll do that when we get over to reports a little bit later. Let's go ahead and wrap up this section, and let's talk over in section 4 about the chart of accounts.